All right, let's get started. So I am going to, I've unmuted Mark and Ashlyn. So this is Sarah Frame. I am one of two regional ambassadors here in Massachusetts. I'm joined by my colleague, Ruth Morris, and we're really excited to have you here today. I do know some others are going to be joining. I got a couple of emails for people being late. So I just want to start off and say, you know, we're so excited. I think over the past several years, we've been working with the Rhode Island teams, but we're making a concerted effort to really do everything and integrate this year a lot more. So you'll see that we started by integrating the logos. For us in Massachusetts, we're really lucky in that we have some support and help from member company sponsors. So those are here. And then today's speakers. So I'm going to walk you through the beginning just to give a little bit of overview of what we call housekeeping. And we're going to turn it over to Joe Mazzone, and he has some students in Rhode Island that are going to give their experiences from prior years. And then we are going to turn it over to David Petty and Padmaja Bandaru and Joe to really get into the thick of things and then open it up for questions. I promise we'll have everybody out of here by 5 p.m. So we're going to go, I've just done the introductions. We're going to do just a little bit of overview on Technovation Girls, the important milestones and dates. I've already mentioned the experience from the teams in Rhode Island. And where to begin, tips and tricks. We have a lot of references. So this is being recorded right now. We'll make this available for you so you do not have to go and take a lot of notes. But there's a lot of links at the end of this presentation. So what is Technovation Girls? This is actually on the left. This is from the Technovation website. It's using problems to solve technology. Girls working in teams. You find a problem in your community and you build a mobile app to help solve it. You know, the biggest takeaways I think are collaboration, problem solving, leadership skills. This is much more about technology. This is building a company. This is really an entrepreneurship challenge with technology at its core. And this to the right are some of the teams from last year's showcase. So just to give a little bit of an idea of the impact that Technovation Girls has had, since 2010, they've had 23,000 girls from over 100 companies participating. Just in Massachusetts alone, we've had over 800 girls from 56 cities and towns. It's just astronomical. Joe can give a little bit more insights on Rhode Island, who started a little bit later than we did. But the numbers are astounding, where so many things don't scale to get girls into tech. This program has really proven to do so. A little bit about the roles of Technovation. First, the team, very critical. We'll get into that a little bit more on recruiting and building your team. Teams are typically 3 to 5 people. I know David will say, try to err on the side of 5 over 3. It's a lot of work. So more teammates, better. And then we have the next 2 roles being coaches / mentors. Technovation refers to them on their website. This has changed over the years, but they call everybody a mentor. Coaches and mentors, those are really your teachers. That's your core person that's going to help walk you through the curriculum, that's going to help you set up your meetings. They're your, for lack of a better word, you know, they're your advisor, your coach. Industry mentors are a little bit different. Those are the people from industry that are going to be able to help you look at it from their point of view. As you'll find through this curriculum, because it is based a lot on building blocks of businesses, that in the professional world, they're going to come across the same problems that you're coming across as you build your company. And so those industry mentors are going to help guide you with their own experiences that they see every day. Those mentors they sign up on the Massachusetts and Rhode Island website. So when you get into your Technovation portals, you'll be able to see the mentors that are available to you. A lot of people pick mentors based on company and also location, depending upon where you are in the region. And then the judges. There's two parts to judging. The first is online. So the judges, as you submit everything online, will start to score you from your online submissions. The second part of judging occurs at the showcase in May. We're finalizing that date right now. It's either going to be on the 2nd or on the 16th. And that will be available. We'll know that in the next week or so. That's going to happen at Wentworth Institute of Technology in Boston. In order to move on, you really should be at the showcase. If you move on to the next, if you want to move on to the next level, that's your goal, to the regionals and semifinals, it becomes much harder if you're not at the showcase, because your submission gets pooled in with the global submissions. Otherwise, if you're at the showcase, if you're one of the top teams, you'll just likely move on. I want to put that out there because it is really very important. Here are the Technovation Girls milestones. This is registration has opened. Again, I know that our teachers that are going to be speaking are going to offer the tidbit that this is a very accelerated program, where it has official start of the season being January 14th. You can really start whenever you want. The words of wisdom are to start as early as you can. It's a lot of work. So the longer you give yourself, the better off you're going to be. This next slide just gives a listing of the Massachusetts and Rhode Island events for Technovation Girls. We have a lot of great things coming up. They're really meant to augment everything that you can get online. They're also a way for you to start to meet one another and talk to one another. It gives you an extra platform. And I think that is such a huge experience as well. Business people have networking events. You could go to a networking event every single day if you wanted to. They're really very important. So I highly suggest as many as you can come to that you do. We also know that there's a lot of competing interests and conflicts that you're going to have with school and work and family and sports and personal. So we're making as many as we can available online as well. All of this is available on our website. Again, those links will be available to you. You'll see them in the references and you'll see them on the recorded video. So now I want to turn this over to Joe Mazzone and the teams in Rhode Island.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Joe Mazzone, and I run Technovation Girls in England, and I'm here with a couple of my students. One is Jaden, and Jaden is, this is her second year doing Technovation, so she's going to speak to it with a little more experience. And then the other one's Evie, and Evie participated in Technovation a little bit last year, but this is her first full year being on officially on a team. So first I'm going to start off, then I'm just going to talk about how kind of they formed the teams. So I'll have Jaden go first.
So when I joined this club last year, my two friends had already joined previously, and they had agreed to form a team together. So when I saw that they were in the group, I joined them and agreed to help out with their projects.
So when I joined it a little bit later because I was playing high school soccer, so I didn't have the time to play soccer and this at the same time. Then once that ended, me and my friend decided to join, so that's how we got our team.
All right, and then so then the next process is ideation. Really, once they form a team, or sometimes they do some ideation before they form teams. So I'll have Jaden and then Evie talk about how they've come up with their companies and businesses. They can talk to this year or last year's.
So when we were trying to figure out the kind of app that we wanted to make, Mr. Mazzone asked us to look at like the communities that we're a part of and problems that stem from that, the ones that we are the most passionate about, which is what me and my friends looked at. We found the communities we were a part of, and then the one problem or issue that we really felt that we were passionate about solving and wanted to try and solve.
And then Evie, maybe what are some of the things, maybe you want to talk a little bit about your idea and what are some of the things you did to kind of come to that idea?
So me and my friend, like Dave said, he had us come up with like communities that we are in, that we were both passionate about, and me and my friend were both passionate about like sports and how some sports are underrated or like girls biased against or whatever. So we kind of formed our app around that because we wanted to see that we were both passionate about.
And then definitely one of the #1 questions we get from a lot of teams is how do you split up the work? Each team works a little different. So I'll let the two teams kind of talk a little bit about how they split up the work, or what are the roles different members of the team have.
So when me and my group started working on our app, the way that we tried to break it up was just what we personally were best at. So if one of us was really passionate about like making the app look beautiful, or the other one was more program efficient, I suppose, we would try to break it up like that. But as a whole, we all kind of worked on it all together. We all kind of split the work up equally just to make sure it went the fastest.
So for our group, the way that we kind of set it up right now is I do more of the research online to see like what people are doing certain sports, that like girls playing guy sports or guys playing girl sports, and see people like that I could maybe interview or whatever. And then my partner does more of like that aesthetics and like designing it and organizing all the information that we find in certain categories, so that way it's easier to set up the app.
Very good. So I'll just kind of turn it over to them quick before we open it up for any questions that the audience maybe has for these ladies. Is there anything else that you can think of that would be helpful for new teams? We'll have Jaden go first.
Probably just manage your time very wisely. When you're passionate about the problem that you're trying to solve, you want to put a lot of work into it. And at first, especially with my team at first in the very beginning, we didn't realize how much work we wanted to put into it. Like, we knew that we wanted to work hard on it and make it something that we were very proud of, but we didn't realize how long it was going to take and how many bumps along the road we would face. So I would just say work very hard and manage your time very wisely.
Very good advice. Evie, any thoughts? Starting off new this year?
I would say don't get discouraged to do an idea because it seems too hard, because me and my partner we weren't going to do the sports ideas. We didn't think like how do we make an app about that or whatever, but he told us to stick with it since we're both passionate about it, and we didn't really think of any other ideas. So even though it's going to be hard to think of an app that we could do, we're both passionate about it, so we wanted to keep going with that.
That's perfect. So does anybody in the audience have any questions for either them specifically or collectively?
So I have one. How much time per week did your team spend throughout the course of the program?
So my team, in the beginning, when we first started realizing like what problem we wanted to solve, and in the beginning of creating the actual app. We only worked on it during Women in Technology Club, which was once a week, about 2 hours-ish. But as time went on and we were in like the middle or towards the end of creating and finishing the app, some of us, in addition to working on it in Women in Technology, we would go home and we would work on it and we would just text the other, hey, I did this, do you want to work on this, stuff like that.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll, there might be questions too as we go on. Because as we start to describe the process, they might want to go back to refer back to the case. So David, do you want to take over from here, and you can just tell me when you want me to flip slides to?
It got kind of dark here.
Oh,
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to get the most recent one up. What's the next slide? What was the slide before that? I'm sorry. Did we just go over that?
yeah, I was just getting into this. Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to say a couple of things. I was going to repeat what Sarah said about teams, and that my buzzword or my catchphrase for Technovation is, it's a lot of work, but it's totally worth it. Or I should say, and it's totally worth it. And that's feedback I've gotten. And I think we just heard the girls in Rhode Island say a similar thing, that there was a lot to do, but that the things that you learn in terms of the confidence that you get from pitching and what you learn about finance and business plans and developing an app and solving a problem that's socially relevant, those are all things that make the whole Technovation program worthwhile. It's a 12-week program. There's also a 20-week version, but I'll just reiterate that it's really important to start early, because it will, if you just spend the 12 weeks and you only spend a couple of hours a week doing it, it won't be enough time for you to complete. Where it says here, create a schedule and stick to it, that's really important to have milestones. And I might turn it over to Padmaja for a moment to talk about the notion of the option of having, instead of having a single mentor, trying to follow you longitudinally for 12 weeks. Perhaps one approach that we've done is to have a few mentors, like for example, 6 that would show up every other week. And the visits of those mentors that would have different skills would be the milestones for that week. Do you want to talk to that, Padmaja?
Yeah, I did unmute it. Okay.
It's kind of noisy there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what I tried to do was, like, trying to find one mentor that can come every week has seemed problematic, and it proved problematic for us. Then the next thing that we tried to do was have somebody call in and do a webinar like this with the team, each particular team every week. Again, it was still time consuming because they were supposed to dedicate the extra time from wherever they are, and it did not work out either. So the next thing I came up, I tried was, like, we all the 10 weeks or 12 weeks, we don't need the mentors to be actually giving feedback to every week. So we thought of making a better idea. So, like, sign up of the 10 weeks that we are running the program. When can you come? Please spare us 1 hour. So during that 1.5 hour, whichever one they was convenient for them, they showed up at our school, and that particular mentor actually sat with it. They gave a presentation about, like, whether it is a business plan or marketing development, or even giving technical feedback on the apps. Look, each one had their own specialty, and they brought that into the classroom. And then what they did was they went to each team and they gave suggestions for each team. So they kind of mentored all the 25 girls that were in there. for business. Like, also, you might want to change the business development plan this way, that way, and then so. It was very personalized for each team, and it has proven to be a good suggestion, a good workaround for the teams that they needed them. So I literally had like 7 people come in, and in the end, the last day, I had a final presentation here at school where all those 7 out of the 7 people mentors who came, 3 of them showed up, and they actually judged all the apps that were there even before the final regional competition. So they had like 2 versions of it. It is kind of, they went to the design cycle twice, which gave them enough confidence, and it worked out great for our teams.
Yeah, I would say that the idea that you just mentioned of having a showcase in your school, if you can do that, is a really awesome thing. And whether you judge it or not, it gives the girls that much more practice in pitching, because the pitching is, you know, making the pitch video and finishing the financials on the business plan tends to be the thing that you know, happens towards the end, and there's not always the enough time to actually do all of that. So scheduling something like a showcase at your school, having all of your mentors read your students' business plans and by a certain date, those are really important ways to keep things on track. Can I just say one thing about the submission date? It is the 20th of April, which is a Monday. And I just looked it up. They have now, because I bugged them about whether it was daylight saving time or, you know, regular time, many years in a row, they've now changed it to Greenwich Mean Time. So it's 7 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, which is 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific. So FYI, it's not 8 o'clock in the evening anymore, like it's been for the last, you know, 10 years. And I believe that the 20th is the beginning of April vacation or the end. I'm not, we should check that out. I'm sorry.
I think it's right. No, it's the beginning.
Beginning.
It's usually at the end. We noticed that they've always had April vacation to finish it up, and this year they don't. But I think that's because we have a late vacation.
Yep.
Yeah, so that means that we have to get, pretty much everything has to be done by that Friday. I mean, you really should be submitting. So that puts even more pressure than usual on, you know, on submissions. Do you want to go to the, I think we covered everything here except for the showcase. Sarah, you mentioned that the showcase in Mass is a really important thing for the students to participate in. And it's been an awesome thing. It's at Wentworth. They get to meet each other. There's teams from all over the place, including some out west in Rhode Island and a bunch of different places. So how many teams did we have last year? Was it 40-ish?
42.
42, yeah. So it's a great thing for them to participate in. And I believe it was 10 that got to do a live pitch based on the judging that had happened beforehand. So it's a pretty good ratio, you know, 1 out of 4, you get a chance to pitch.
And then also I want to just mention something that, Joe, you actually mentioned it, really important. I'm using my mouse here to highlight it, but the tools to build your app have been limited this year, unlike in prior years. MIT App Inventor, so very important. You can only use that on Android devices. Dunkable, Swift, and then Java. I know that App Inventor has been trying for a long time to get an iOS compatible platform. They have it, it's in beta. So the problem with that is you could feasibly use it, but you can't launch. So I suggest you do not use it if you want to not use Android. On the great side about App Inventor is that they're right here in our backyard, and we do a beginner's App Inventor workshop That will be online this year. And then we have an advanced app inventor workshop at MIT. So it's a really unique experience that if you choose that platform to do your coding on. So let me go to the next step. These are the submission and guidelines and judging.
Yeah, so these are the things that you need to submit. And if you click on that link, the submission guidelines, it goes over all of them in detail. You have a chance if you have a middle school team to not do the business plan. There's a sort of a junior and a senior division. I have always encouraged all of my teams, including middle school teams, to do the business plan because it's one of the important aspects, I think, of Technovation is where you actually have to think about how you're going to sell your product. You have to think about a marketing plan. You have to do financials. So that's the thing that I would say my students have taken away from this program. That's not usually something that they get in high school or middle school. The rest of it you can see there. It's pretty much the same except for the video. I shouldn't say it's pretty much the same. It's all easily doable except developing the app, which of course you have to do, which solves a problem in your community. And the video, the pitch video that you make, they've extended it from 4 minutes to 5 minutes, and there is no demo video. There used to be 2 videos that you had to do, now there's only 1. So in a sense, that's simpler, but you do have to include in your pitch video how your app works. Like not only what is it, but giving a demonstration at least to some extent of how it works would probably be a good idea. You want to add anything, Joe?
No, you covered it perfectly, and that was what I was going to make sure if people did have some experience with Technovation knew that's just one video now, because that is one. I would say that's a major change for sure. Most people, the code isn't a big change because I think most people were doing that. They were either doing App Inventor or Thunk.
Okay, so one thing I just wanted to say about finishing up the app before submission is I usually set the deadline 1 week before the actual submission date because our high school students usually tend to wait till the last minute to finish everything and try to cram. So that's the reason why I do that 1 week ahead, saying that this is the final presentation and you have to present it to your parents or whoever that might be in the school, so that at least we'll have some kind of framework for them and they can build on it, and they'll have at least 4 or 5 days after that. Even building the video and everything does take time, and they don't realize it until they start it. So that was one of the suggestions that I have for any teams that they are trying to work with. And also the other suggestion is about devices, trying to test it out on the devices. There are a couple of devices. I just realized that there is something called Vankyo Matrix Pad for $65 if they want to test anything. Like, they need 1 tablet per team. So if you have 3 teams, like for about less than $200, you will have the devices that you can work with. And also, I agree with David. David kind of covered everything with regards to making the video and the timings and everything. Most of the time, the information is inside so much in so many web pages that, for a new coach to walk through all of them and what are the things to look out for, it will always be a difficult thing. So having this girl submission guidelines and judging, having it in one place and having them access to it is always helpful. I would like to put the deadline dates on that if that is possible.
One thing that seems to be a change is that last year they were very specific about coding rubric. There was a coding rubric, and I forget, say it was 10 points, and you got 1 point for this and 1 point for that and 1 point for that. I don't believe there is such. I have not been able to find it on the website. And so if Technovation International lets us know if there is something else, we'll be certain to have that linked to our website. But right now, as Joe pointed out, the submission, the rubric, which is linked there on the final, right at the bottom there, describes the project as a whole, and it's kind of subjective. Like you can get up to 5 points for each one of those areas, and there's an 80-point total for 16 different categories.
David, we can double check, but I think I read that they had removed the checklist this year, which I think is what you're asking about, but I'll double check.
Yeah. So that was in a way, I thought that was good because it let the girls know that, well, in order to meet all the app development criteria, you need to follow, include these things. Yeah. But of course, if they make an app that actually does something, they would have included all those things anyway. So it's not required. It just gives them some guidelines. So.
Yep.
Should I go to the next slide?
Yes, please. Does somebody else want to talk to this? I mean, we've covered a lot of it. I think that, Sarah, your point about you don't have to agree on everything all the time, that people need to make compromises, that's an important lesson that the teams need to learn. And I've had a problem in the past where there was a team of 4 and 3 of them agreed and 1 didn't. And it's a lot of work. So if all 5 people, and I recommend 5 on a team if you can do it, if all 5 people can't, compromise, it's going to be a real challenge to get things completed. Also, it says ask a lot of questions here. We're available. The people who've done this before are very happy to help other people who are just getting into it. And so our contact information will be available and from this webinar. And I'm happy to answer. I know Padmaja, who left for a moment, is also happy. And Joe, you were just nodding there. So and obviously the regional ambassadors are your first point of contact. So that's awesome. And I feel as though the mentoring, I was only able to get 3 mentors last year, not the full complement of 7 like Padma just said. So I'm working extra hard this year to get 6 different mentors. But I know that can be difficult. But I'm sure that that Sarah and Ruth can help with that as well. So it depends on where you're located, right? If you're in town or if you're in a big city, it's easier than if you're in a rural area, but we can help out, helping to find mentors as well.
Absolutely. We will find a mentor. That there's no doubt about it. And my suggestion is we've had in the past a lot of teams that don't opt for an industry mentor or have an industry mentor but don't utilize them. And it's so important, if for nothing else, just to hear their perspectives. You might, not absolutely need one to move forward and succeed, but I think it's a really important part. It's something that I think is helpful, that you can see what it's like to actually be in the business setting.
Yeah, if I could just chime in, all of my industry mentors have been awesome inspirations for the teams. But one of the things I think that is important for a winning team, and again, this is mostly about process and not about winning, but it's really important to have someone besides the teacher read their business plan. Whether it's a parent or an industry mentor or somebody from Mass TLC or whatever, it's that can make the difference, because this is usually the first time these high school students have ever done anything with financials or done a projection over 2 years and things like that. And they're totally capable of doing it, but they need some good feedback. And without some adult feedback from the business world who've actually, done real companies, it's kind of tough to complete. And I feel as though our business plans we just didn't get them done in time last year. And so we didn't really have the revision I would have liked to have had. And I think our overall submission suffered from that. So I would highly recommend that you get, at the very least, someone to help you read the business plans at the end.
So let me go. Oh, and there's student ambassadors as well. Those, I don't actually have the student ambassadors for Massachusetts yet. I don't know if you have them for Rhode Island yet, but Technovation actually assigns student ambassadors for our regions. So we'll have names of other students that you can also reach out to and who will make themselves available. And they love to help. So that's why they do this. Let me just keep going. As I mentioned at the top of the webinar, we do have a lot of references here. I do suggest when we send this out, you take a look through them. These are just very important links. You're going to probably be visiting these often. This is to the Technovation Girls website. This is for the Education and Foundation Technovation Girls, Massachusetts, and I want to say Rhode Island is for talking about events. This is all where you'll get all that information, as well as where all the recordings are for our workshops and webinars. The curriculum, the workshop folder. This
Oh,
is
could you go back to the curriculum just for one moment? Yeah, that link at the bottom, do you see where it says registered? So if you just go to technovationchallenge.org/curriculum, you will get a curriculum that you can't look at unless you are signed in. And it's kind of a catch-22, but that link will take you to the live curriculum. They don't really have any sort of cookies or anything. You can just look at it if you have the right link. The point, though, is that they have two. They have one they call the legacy curriculum and the one that they're currently updating. And so when you go to that link, you'll see two. And there are lots of good things in both. I would certainly scan through, you know, the one that's the current one has all the things for the way that Technovation is structured this year. But the legacy curriculum has, like, for example, you might want a unit on ideation, or maybe you want a tutorial on App Inventor, or maybe you want to take a look at their business plan writing section. It's worthwhile looking at the older curriculum because not everything, you know, you may find something there that's more suited to the way you want to do it than perhaps the current one. So just be aware that there are two, at least today, and you can look at both in terms of finding curricula that you can use for your teams.
okay. And ideation, this is the #1 first thing you need to do once you get your team and everything else settled. These are some great exercises. Ben Shapiro, many years ago, came and did our original kickoff doing an ideation exercise. You can see how he does that here. The MIT App Inventor. These are some tutorials. As I mentioned, we will be having an App Inventor beginners workshop soon. This is probably not something you need to get into right now, but you will need to. Business plan. These are some great links that David put together on helpful things for creating your business plan. I take a look at those. And then pitching. This is really important. You not only do the pitch video, but if you are one of the top scorers at the showcase, you're invited to pitch to the entire audience, which is, a few hundred people. So every year we're blown away at the pitches that the teams give. It takes a lot of practice to be able to do that. So here are a couple of videos to help you along the way. And again, your coaches, your mentors, they're going to help you throughout all of this as well. And that is the end of our Technovation Girls 101. Again, as I mentioned, we are going to be sending this back out to all of our attendees, and we will have it on our website as a reference for you to use. Any questions at all?
Hi, my name's Ashlyn. I'm with the Lady Lancers at Norton High School, and I was just wondering, out of all of the coding websites that you mentioned, which one would you say is the best?
I'm going to turn that over to all the teachers.
Yeah.
David and Padma might have something to say, but certainly the one that has the most resources, tons and tons of YouTube videos, and of course local support with MIT being right in Massachusetts. MIT App Inventor is going to be the one where you're going to find the absolute most support for, as well as easiest to get working and to bring your idea to life the fastest.
I do agree with Joe on that one, and the only thing I would like to add is the number of Android phones might be limited for people. Like, if you have an Apple phone, Thunkable seems to be very, very close to MIT App Inventor, but they just have to figure out if you pass in the initial hurdles of figuring out that, the vertical arrangements and the horizontal arrangements for the buttons and images and everything. They are similar to MIT App Inventor. Unless you figure that one out, if you click on something, something can move away. But reading through the Thunkable instruction material and tutorials and everything, you should be able to overcome that too. So if you want to use iPhones for testing out your app, Thunkable seems to be reasonable. Getting Android environment and everything set up at the high-level object, I don't think for this one you will not have that kind of time, but if somebody is up for it, I don't suggest why not. But the thing is, the kids are not familiar with the object-oriented programming when you want to do it with the Android environment or the Swift environment.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, I agree. App Inventor is easy to get going fast, and it's perfectly adequate to make the kind of app, a prototype app that you would want to make for Technovation.
Thank you all so much for your input.
Excellent. Any other questions? All right, well, fantastic. Well, thank you all for attending. Thank you to David, Joe, and your teams, Padmaja and Ruth, for being here as well. We're looking forward to a great season. We're all here as resources and available to help in any way, and we're really excited. So with that, thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thank you, you too.
All right.